Struggling to discuss sex and intimacy with your partner?
Not feeling met, seen, or heard in your relationships?
I'm Janelle.
And I'm Andrea. We're two midlife mavericks sharing our own experiences.
Messy AF and no regrets.
With marriage, divorce, polyamory, and pleasure.
We've learned that when you're brave enough to figure out what you want and ask for it,
with partners, friends, family, and most importantly, yourself,
you'll feel more alive and free.
Question everything, especially your mother's advice.
There's no rom-com formula for this, but don't panic.
Being alone matters. Honey, I can't miss you if you don't leave.
What if your breakup could be your breakthrough?
Our podcast is for brave hearts.
Anyone who seeks or has found the courage to confront their fears and limiting beliefs about breaking societal norms in the spirit of finding their truth.
If you're seeking permission to be brave in your relationships
and want to feel less alone along the way,
we got you.
Wow. Oh my goodness. What a story that Rich Priddis just gave us from a childhood and a life up to 49 of Mormonism, deep Mormonism, to now weaving gratitude and self-pleasure and Tantra into his relationship with God and finding himself and so much love in his new path. I'm stunned at his courage.
Yeah, and I just really felt the groundedness of his lived experience come through as wisdom.
Yeah, he's gone through so much and he's gleaned so much from it, right? The Mormonism.
And is able to articulate it in a really beautiful way.
Yes. So up next, we're interviewing Rich Priddis, sex and intimacy coach.
Stay tuned. Hi, Bravehearts. Welcome to Permission to Be Human. I'm Janelle.
And I'm Andrea.
And welcome to our latest episode of Season 5, Building a Relationship with God. We have been interviewing other Bravehearts all season of various walks of life, various faiths, various ways that they express their faith. And today is no exception. We have Rich Priddis here with us to share his views. And I'm so excited.
Yeah, I am so excited to hear another journey, right? Like everyone has shared exactly how their relationship with God or spirit or whatever they call that has expressed. And I learned a lot already in season 5. So Rich, welcome to the show. Rich Priddis is a conscious intimacy guide and sexual healing coach who had never tasted coffee or alcohol until he left the Mormon church at age 49. Now, his large mug of Kauai coffee, chocolate muscle milk, cayenne, cinnamon, and MCT oil is the most important part of his day. And he says no one is taking that away. Best intro ever. Love that.
Mm-hmm. It's a beautiful, succinct example of finding your truth, Rich.
Yes.
Of you're like, someone told you you can't do this, and you're like, actually, this is how God expresses through me.
Right.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you so much for being that articulate in sharing that as your bio.
Mm-hmm. How would you just describe your spiritual or religious beliefs?
At the moment, I believe that there is a higher power. I grew up in the Mormon church with this image of a man, like this resurrected, perfected being. And it took me a while to sort of wrap my head around some other idea because I was indoctrinated with that idea. And now I believe that there's all kinds of cooperative energies out in the universe, things that I can't really comprehend. And I relate it to looking at my cell phone, like even what we're doing right here, that we're in this live thing talking, and I really can't comprehend how it works. People kind of explain it to me, but it still blows my mind. You could have been on the other side of the world and it's still talking. And I think in order to wrap our heads around it, humans attach some kind of thing that they can comprehend, like seeing an image of a father, a perfect father, or the deer tribe that I've been involved with around here, that we talk about the directions, the north, south, east, west, and the fire and wind and elements and how those affect us. And I think those are all valid ways of us sort of grokking what is happening, something that we can't comprehend. So, and also that I'm like connected to all of that. I'm a god, basically. We're all gods. We're all our higher selves connected to whatever that is.
I love what I'm hearing is that you're like, I don't know exactly what it is. I don't exactly know how to explain it. I certainly can't comprehend it. I just know that it's real and that I'm a part of it. And that we as humans try an attempt to find ways to explain essentially the unknowable.
Yeah, one of the interesting things about when I left the church was, we're used to praying to this being, this man who I was told if I left the church and I sinned, if I wasn't good enough, that I wouldn't be getting communication from him. Like he would block it off until I was a good boy. And the amazing thing was that when I left and I was doing all these sinful things, I felt like I was getting more downloads, more information coming through from wherever it was coming from. And that just kind of blew my mind. But I think it's because I was actually free. I wasn't stuck in that rigid place where I could only receive certain things and do it in a certain way. I was free to bring in what I needed. It was really an interesting realization,
I just want to jump in that I love that I'm hearing some kind of comfort in this uncertainty. Like you're okay with it. And I love the comparison to technology. You're like, we do this all the time. And where most of us are probably comfortable in that uncertainty of being in touch with someone across the world and not exactly knowing how that works, but just going with it. So I just hear a trust and comfort in that uncertainty. That's beautiful. And then what you just said, wow, it's not just hell that you were threatened with. It was, no, you're going to be cut off. like no one's going to talk to you anymore. That feels like quite a threat.
Yeah. Well, and the whole thing with the Mormon church is about families can be together forever. You get married for eternity to this one person, and you can live with them forever if you're good, but you're cut off and you're in some other place if you don't do what you're supposed to do.
So the threat level comes at all the levels, right? It's like, okay, you're going to get cut off from your God, but you're also going to get cut off from your family. The other part that had me go, just, wow, is this direct response. Something compelled you to leave, obviously. And you're like, I'm going to go, and for the very first time, I'm going to sin, and I'm going to have a cup of coffee. And immediately something was like, this is incredible. Great. Right? Something affirmed the choice of drinking coffee for you that was outside of you.
Yeah, the coffee, we weren't allowed to drink alcohol. So I tried, beer for the first time, and it was really a cheap beer and I hated it. And, I found what I like now. But those things I hadn't even tasted. Smoking, I never smoked. I still don't smoke, but till I was 49, I hadn't even tried any of that. And I was with one woman for, I was a virgin until I got married. And I got married, unfortunately, for the wrong reason, because I felt like I had to be married to have sex. And so I rushed into something. And then I was just with that woman for 26 years, which is beautiful. We have beautiful children. I love that. And yet I came to the end of that and I was like, okay, I want to see what else is out there. Not only with coffee and alcohol and those sorts of things, but with sex and relationships. I have no clue except for this one person, so that was quite an adventure.
Yeah. And Rich, would you mind saying how old you are now? Because just to give reference to how long.
65.
You're 65 now. Okay. So you've been on this journey for 16 years, this second chapter, or maybe multiple chapters of your life. Mm-hmm. So I'm 51 now, and I have a stepson, but I didn't have children myself. But I got married for the first time at 45. I'm divorced now. But what I'm hearing, right, is that at 49, right, you'd already been married 26 years, and your kids were already grown, I'm guessing. And so you're like, I'm like, here's this whole life I have in front of me, and what's going to happen with it? There's something pulling you to say, there's got to be something more for the next half of my life.
Yeah, because it's an interesting phenomenon that I see anyway. You look at Mormon people and they're beautiful and they seem happy in that, but there's also this level of what I call shut down. And that's exactly what I was with so many of them, where there's no real joy in their face and their eyes. It's like this contracted sort of thing where I think, well, I'll speak for myself. I felt stuck. I was in this box, and things like, self-pleasuring is a sin, and you're not supposed to have sex, and you're not supposed to do anything. And so you're stuck in this box. Like it feels like this pressure is happening, these natural feelings and natural, urges, but you're not supposed to act on any of it in any way. So that was a great thing for me to actually get out and experiment and look at different things, and then realize that I wasn't being struck by lightning every time I did something that now to me just seems natural and good that everybody should be able to do. That was like getting the answer, that I didn't think I was going to get. Not being struck by lightning, not having my whole life fall apart because God, was mad at me now.
But the courage it took, right? The courage it took for you to say, I'm going to have a cup of coffee at the risk of getting struck by lightning, but I'm going to try it anyway.
Luckily, I ran into somebody right after I got divorced that was also leaving the church, and we sort of, coupled up and held hands and left together, and that was helpful, to have that support.
Right, so that you weren't alone.
Yeah.
You've mentioned something about like having experiences, right? As part of like a reason why we're here. You've mentioned that in what you shared. And I'd love to hear a little bit more about that, because it sounds like that's what, at 49, there was something that you're just like, there was so little you were quote unquote allowed to do. And so you were just like, I just want to try it without the assumption that you had to like any of it, but you're just like, I just want to try to figure out what it is that I like.
Yeah. I don't know how free I am to speak,
please,
like masturbation, things like that. Is that okay?
Yeah. It's all welcome here. Yeah.
So
totally.
That was a sin in the church. And if I masturbated as a young man, I was enjoying it and I'd get to the climactic part and it was amazing. And then I would immediately go into this deep shame, like this, oh, I'm terrible now. I'm the God thing hating me and all of that. And it was terrible. After I left the church and got divorced, and I started actually studying self-improvement things and investigating different ways of thinking. I used to go to trade shows in Vegas a lot, either exhibiting or attending. And I had just been discovering Tantra, just looking it up. And I thought, okay, I want to experience something tantric. And I thought, Vegas, there must be something in Vegas. And I was surprised there wasn't. I looked up Tantra, and Vegas just didn't have anything. But there were these few women who would come, that you could call them to your room, which I'd never done. That was like way out there for me. But she would come and give me a tantric massage. And so I tried it. I called her to my room, and it was this, scary kind of thing. And we were both naked, and she oiled me up, and she was sliding her body across mine, and she gave me a happy ending. And in the end, I was like, wow, I don't feel that deep shame. Actually, I really enjoyed it. And that was one of my first breakthroughs where I was like, I should be getting struck by lightning. I should be feeling all this shame. I should be all this stuff. And it was like, whoa, no, that was really great. I want to. And so the next time I went to Vegas and I brought my partner at the time with me, I said, let's both do it. So we called her to the room again, and we both got a tantric massage. She said all the right words. I don't know that it was necessarily tantric,
right?
Sort of.
And I know you, Rich, as a result of both of us, or actually all three of us, having gone through ISTA, which we just call to simplify it, International School of Temple Arts. It's a tantric retreat. Did Tantra become, it sounds like it did, a big part of your life after that experience?
Yeah, I went through a lot of different experiences. I had a mentor, Tantra teacher, and I went through a Tantra teacher training. after doing a bunch of workshops on that sort of thing. I attended ISTA. I've actually been involved with almost 50 ISTA trainings over the years. Yeah, but then the Quodoushka, which is the deer tribe here in Arizona, and they're similar but a little bit different, perspective.
Yeah, I've actually done I've done the Q1.
Oh, sweet, yeah. And shamanic de-armoring. I tried Human Awareness Institute, the high. Did a couple levels of that, and they all have their approach. Basically, the same kind of area of sexual healing. I'll say conscious sexuality, as well as other things. But yeah, so I went through a lot of, and other things I did. I went through a lot of experiences that way in training, and then I decided I wanted to share it with other people. But yeah, it's been quite a path.
So I think I'm hearing that Tantra is part of or woven into your expression or relationship with God. Is that true? Or can you say more about that?
It is. Okay, so here's a weird thing people might think is weird. I'll just say that I discovered that raising our energy is a very important thing, our vibrations, right, to connect with God. A lot of people have heard about that. And when I was a little boy, we were taught to pray and to give thanks first. Like, that was really important, to thank God for the things we had. And I thought that it was because he'd be mad at me if I didn't thank him, right? But then as I got older and left the church, I realized that gratitude in the beginning of, your communication with God or the universe has a way of shifting our energy. And that's what Tantra is all about, shifting this energy and breath movement and sound and moving our emotions. And so if I'm giving gratitude, it's going to raise my vibrations, from maybe depression or discouragement to, wow, I really do have some nice things going on. And it puts me in a better position to communicate, to receive things. If I'm super depressed, I'm not open to anything. I'm just like, bump on a log. But if I'm raising my vibrations, being grateful for things, then I'm open to what might want to come through. And then I added to that, this is the weird thing for people probably, I started in my meditation, I started self-pleasuring. And that's like, whoa, that would blow my old church friends' minds, that I'm praying to God while I'm,
Right.
self-pleasuring. But it's a great way to shift the energy. I'm making myself feel good and raising those vibrations so that I can then be in a good place to connect with universe, God, the cosmos, the cooperative energies, whatever you want to call that. So anyway, so that connection with Tantra.
That's awesome. Yeah, like what an interesting twist of using self-pleasure and gratitude to raise your frequency and open you to the relationship.
Yeah, you've just articulated something that I know to be true. And there are several friends and other teachers who are not tantric teachers who acknowledge that orgasm and self-pleasure specifically are like really kind of like rocket fuel to expanding our consciousness for a period of time. And that some people really get a lot of their downloads, right? It's a prayer, but like the downloads come once they're accessed that state, that self-pleasure and erotic energy or orgasmic energy can touch on. I'm appreciating you, even for my own like growth and like perspective shift of like, oh yeah, I know that to be true, but I haven't said it that way. And actually, I don't even self-pleasure that much with that intention. And so I'm like, oh, I should like add that. I'm going to try that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm ready and taking notes.
But it's in lovemaking too. There's that component of connecting with the universe. And that's one of okay, there's nothing wrong with just having a quickie and doing, getting to climax and all of that. All of it's good. But there are those things that the moments that I really love is where you can be making love for an hour, 2 hours, and you're just going deeper and deeper into that energy. And then really there is oftentimes this connection that happens. You heard about sex magic, where you can use sexual energy to manifest the things that you want. But I've experienced, and my partners have experienced, these times where they get these downloads while we're making love, and like a rewiring of the nervous system and things like that, where it's just beautiful. Beyond what so many people do with sex, where it's just let's get this done, and it lasts just a short time, and there's this goal oriented thing. I love the goal of getting to that place where you're just totally open, and everything, your monkey brain has left, and you're just open to receiving this information or whatever it is that wants to come through, or healing or transformation.
It deeply relates. I mean, to this idea of sacred sexuality, right? Of like, oh, you're making your sexual lovemaking sacred. And in doing so, through prayer, through gratitude, through this erotic energy, you're now opening yourself up to these, higher benevolent cooperative energies, to get messages from that. And, and the messages probably will guide your life to a higher, state of something. So I'm curious, how would you describe your relationship with God? Do you consider it this different than your relationship with self?
That's something I'm actually working on right now, is reminding myself that I'm connected to everything. It's that idea that we're all one, everybody in some way, that we're all connected, and that if I really go into it, I feel like each one of us, I'll speak for me, that I'm all powerful, that I can create my reality, my life. That goes into some of the shamanic stuff. We can create our own reality. But that I have this direct connection. And so here's the thing. I was taught that we have to go through other people to get to God. So there's the Jesus thing, that he died for our sins, and that's wonderful and everything. I'm not knocking that. But we had to go through somebody. But not only that, in the Mormon church, we had to have worthiness interviews every 6 months to tell us if we were worthy to go to the special temples. And we got a little card that's called a temple recommend, so we could go to the temple. And these temples are different than, like in ISTA, we have temple nights where we're exploring our sexuality and stuff. But this is where you go to get married for eternity, and you get all the secret handshakes and passwords and all of that. But there was always this programming to look outside myself to determine if I was good enough. And it really messed me up. And it creates a situation with people where they become so dependent on that outward validation, that outward direction, that they can't tap into the power that's inside of them, that God gave them, to really,
Right.
It's always this thing, like, even I have a couple kids that are still in the church. I raised them all in the church. And then one day I said, just kidding. and they don't know what to do with that. But
Fair enough.
they still say things like, well, it didn't happen, so I guess it wasn't God's will. And it's only going to happen if this something outside of me wants it to work. And it takes away their power, really. So to answer your question, I feel like we're all connected to God, to the source, I'll say, and we have more power than we realize, that we don't have to go through some other outside validating source to create our lives. But I have to remind myself of that, because I get going through my daily life and I get my monkey brain going, and I'm like, oh crap, things aren't going the way I want. And then I have to bring myself back, and I go, okay, I'll say the things that are going well for me, raise my vibrations. And a lot of that is that, hey, I've got a couple lovers that, are wonderful, and I get to do things like this with you on this podcast, and whatever it is that to bring me back. And then I can go, oh, okay, now I can ask for the things that I want, verbalize them. I call that casting a spell. You talk about spelling words. And so it's my casting a spell of what I want is speaking it.
Andrea and I were both raised Catholic, and we've heard about Mormonism, and it's interesting. I'm noticing that I'm having my eyes got wide when you were like, oh, here's this worthiness card or whatever you get to receive. I'm like, wow, that seems so restrictive. Clearly aware that the Catholicism for me was very restrictive. It just had its own, right? You had to go to confession. And did you deserve,
Yeah.
Someone was telling you how you could do it. So it's there's the control and having to defer to something outside of us happens in so many of the religions. What I'm also really hearing is with the question of, is God different than self? Ultimately, the answer was, you get to have a direct communication with God. You're clear that is your ability, whether it's outside of you or inside of you, it doesn't matter. But it's there is no intermediary.
Correct. And that we actually are gods. It's all connected, and we're just here having an experience. But I feel we're directly connected to everything that's out there that I can't comprehend. That's the problem, right? When you say God, it brings me back to that one person that I was taught to worship, that single being. And now I believe that I can't comprehend what that source is. It's that's just a representation for me to be able to grasp onto and go, okay, I can handle that. I can wrap my head around it.
So, it sounds like at a minimum, even if it's a little murky, your relationship with God and your relationship with self are overlapping.
Yeah, it's a never-ending path, to reprogram and to get where we're going, obviously. But God's not getting in my way. He's not preventing me from doing the things that I enjoy, having my pleasure, and whatever it is. Where in the past, and I think in a lot of religions, there's this idea that he actually gets in the way. It's no, you're not going to get this because, or it's not my will, or it's whatever these things are, these controlling things. And I think that his will, or its will,
or specifically that pleasure is bad. You're not supposed to even want the pleasure, right? God doesn't want you to have pleasure.
Right. And I think what it really is that God or source or whatever it is just wanting us to have our experience and to whatever our highest good is. But he's not gonna go, well, that's not your highest good, so you can't have it. I think we are the ones who decide. We have that power. I don't think he's getting in the way.
How does your relationship with God or the cooperative beings help you find peace amidst the suffering of the world, right? With everything that's going on.
I believe that we can create our own experience. That doesn't mean that nothing bad is going to happen. But I believe that some people just go through life just without action. They don't have any stated purpose. They're just kind of drifting. Drifting is the word I want. They don't know what they want. They don't ask for what they want specifically. And I believe that if I'll just speak for myself again, that if I am actively saying, here are the things that I want in my life. Okay, so for example, every time I get in the car, I say, I want to have a safe and easeful trip. And I'll say sometimes, hey, travel angels. I have all these kinds of words for different travel angels or parking angels. Want to have a good parking space. But I state what I want. I want to have a safe day today. And I speak it out loud. And when somebody's in the car with me, they hear me and they're used to it. And so I feel like yeah, there's a lot of trouble in the world, and I can connect with the universe to guide me through it. If I'm just drifting and I'm just taking whatever happens, then I'm going to be caught up in a lot more of the trouble in the world than maybe I need to be. Is if I'm saying, hey, I want to have a safe trip today, or hey, I want to have this happen, or I want to, improve my health and my body. And so, what do I need to do? So it's being active in your experience, really taking some responsibility for the nature of your experience on the earth, and realizing that there are a lot of other people having their experience, and maybe they're creating something you don't want to be involved in. And that's really sad, some of the things that are happening, and somehow they've created it. So that's what I try to do. And I have my struggles, right? I have things come up, and I'm sometimes in the mystery, don't know why this is happening. And so then I try to do my best to, again, state what I want. And then I'm comforted because I have things come through. Maybe I'll have a message show up on my computer or something that helps me. Or I even like the little, seeing the time when it says 11:11, and I go, oh, my angels are telling me that everything's okay,
Mm-hmm. The first thing that came up was I teared up because I've actually never realized this, but my dad says a prayer. He's 95. He's not driving anymore. Every time our family got in the car together, he would say a prayer out loud.
Oh, really?
Yeah, for us to get to our destination. And I have never tracked that that's what was happening. So I just had this whole wow. Wow.
That's crazy.
Feeling the protection of my dad, knowing that. But what I'm hearing is that it's not that you're saying bad things don't happen, right? But that you do get to influence your experience, and that it's the perspective that you have. You can ask for your desires, and recognizing that they also might not look like you thought, but you're asking for them. And simply by asking for them, that's giving you comfort that you have these other beings supporting you. It's like you're not alone in crafting your life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then the comfort actually comes also because I've consciously asked for something, and then I'm looking for things to show up. So, the time, 11:11, I'm like, okay, I asked for some comfort. So there it is. Or a message will come through somehow. Somebody will say something to me, or an opportunity will come along, and I'll go, oh, okay, I asked for that.
Mm-hmm. I'm hearing this intersection of, what some people would call, I don't even know how this fits in anymore, the woo, right? Like you're believing in this mystery, you're believing in cooperative energies, in God, in spirit. And yet I also hear these very secure structural words like accountability, responsibility, boundaries, intention, right, in the world, which is just a beautiful melding together, because I think we need both, right? We need both of those buckets to live our best life.
And this is really a tantric idea where you state something and something comes back, because, you've probably heard where attention goes, the energy flows. In tantric practices, you put your attention on something in your body, and that's where the energy is going to go. But also in just living life and connecting with God.
One thing I do want to just dive into a little bit, because I think, depending on which brave hearts who are listening might be somewhat confused, right? Is when we think about, the humanitarian crises of the world, and there's so many, right? What I could hear in what you're saying is, oh, if you're in a war zone, you call that in.
No, what I meant by that is that somebody decided to pull the trigger on the war, so that's kind of their reality that they helped to create, not that the victims are creating that. What I am saying is that it's possible that if you find yourself becoming in that war zone situation, to ask, to state, I want a way out of it. I want to change this. What can I do? But it's actually speaking the words, I think, that starts that process. It's like the universe wants to help us, but we have our free agency. And so if we're not saying what we want, then it doesn't know what to do. And so we just kind of drift. That's what I believe. And so, yeah, we can find ourselves in situations and then actively do things to maybe avoid the next piece of it. And also, too, one of the big things I have that I struggle with is when people are always negative, like all they can talk about is negative. I have to stop. Sometimes I'll stop people because I find that for me to be in a good place myself, I have to look at what's right with things. In fact, I say I want to look at what's right with everything. Like, not that everything has something right, but we can get stuck in this negative attitude and just keep going down the black hole. And if we're looking at the things that are going right, it can help us to have hope. And then again, if we're in a terrible situation, we can say, well, I'm alive. Maybe I didn't get killed in this war, and so I'm alive, and my family's with me, or whatever it is. And you can look at what's right, and then move from there to saying, okay, now what can I do? What can I ask for to get out of this? And when people are complaining a lot too, I like to say, well, why don't you do something about it? All of the humanitarian stuff. Okay, well, are you doing something? Have you joined a cause? Or are you just complaining?
Well, and that ties into my next question, which is, does your relationship with, God or spirit give you capacity to directly support those who are struggling? And if so, how?
I mean, I feel like this whole connection to our higher self and to God and to the universe, it's creating an energy of compassion, of love, as opposed to, say, if I'm saying that God doesn't exist, or there's no help in the universe and everything sucks and I'm angry, and that kind of energy, continue to develop that relationship with self and God, really learning to love yourself. I mean, that's probably the greatest thing that you can do to help build a relationship with God. And then you're building those tendencies to want to help other people. It's not all about you then. If you're not feeling good about yourself, then you're always looking for something outside of you again to make it okay. And so you're going to complain about things that aren't happening right and that aren't making you feel good. But if you're grounded in yourself, you're in alignment and you love yourself, then you can help other people. Then you have the capacity, your bucket's full. And so then yeah, you will want to help. And that all ties into, loving yourself and knowing that there's a higher source that is here to help you and you're not alone.
The thread that I'm creating there is that, in a way, like self-love and a relationship with our higher selves and spirit and source are very, very closely tied together, right?
Yeah.
They could almost possibly be the same thing.
Yeah, very close.
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna start saying they're sleeping together.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Like every night, right? Is there any aspect of your relationship with spirit in your early Mormon education that still persists today?
Yeah, there's a lot of good in the experience that I had growing up, and emphasis. There's a huge emphasis on feeling, like feeling the spirit, feeling it in your heart. They called it a burning in your bosom, they called it in the old days, or burning in your heart. And so we were taught to seek for that, to really, in prayer and different things, to look for that feeling that came in. And I realized that I did feel that a lot. And I think people in other religions feel that a lot in different situations. And I think it helped me to be able to connect with spirit or with God. But I don't think it mattered that it was that particular religion or the Catholic religion or whatever that teaches us to somehow connect. So yeah, I value, there's so many little things that I go, oh, okay, just like the giving thanks when I prayed. I'm like, that really helped me a lot.
Beautiful.
And maybe it was presented in a weird way, but it gave me something. So yeah, that's how I really, I think, have my connection, is from all of that.
So, Rich, how would you suggest someone find their deepest belief or spiritual path if they're new on this journey?
Okay, so the biggest thing for me with the church, with following this sacred sexuality path, all of it, is coming to a point where I could, find my truth, which is what you're talking about, and actually live it. And I think it takes so many different, it means diving in and doing the personal work, the personal development, whatever that may be. I mean, I went through so many different things, landmark education and, all the self-improvement books and everything. But I had to finally come to a place, and it really has just been in the last few years where I really feel solid that I'm living my truth. Like to do the work I'm doing, I had to give up relationships because people I was with just couldn't handle that I was being so open and everything. And so I would try to adjust myself and go, I can do this or I can do that. And then it just didn't work. And I finally had to say, this is my truth. This is who I am. People in general, humans, have a hard time stepping up and saying, well, this is who I am. This is my truth. So let's say you have an alternative sex life, and you're afraid to come out of the closet or something. Well, that's a big step in finding and living your truth. And if you're afraid to even do that, then you might have a hard time finding your truth about God and everything, because you're trying to still please other people, I guess. It's a tough one. It's a path. It's a lot of work. But that's what I would recommend is in any place you can, whatever that little piece is, to discover that truth and then live it no matter what anyone else says, and not hide it, not stuff it away. That gets into shadow work and stuff like that. But we never get there totally, I don't think. But it'll get you closer and closer to the more that you actually live whatever truth you've discovered. It'll get you closer to the bigger truth.
Rich, thank you so much for this conversation. Is there any question or thought that you would like to, that hasn't been said, that you'd like to express towards our brave hearts and anyone listening?
Just that and this is just because it's my focus, the important thing in my life right now is that our life force energy is just so important, and it's stifled in so many ways and shamed, and there's so many people who are contracted or who have just given up on it. I'm amazed at how many people just are like, yeah, I just don't have sex. I don't do. And
are you equating life force energy to sexual energy?
That's a big part of it, yeah, is that creative energy that we have. That's what our sexual energy is. It's creative. On the path, like you were saying, to finding the truth and God and all of that, this is a huge piece, is accepting our bodies and loving our bodies, and because that's where these messages and downloads come to, and that's where we feel what's right, and really having a good relationship with our body and our sexuality and our emotions, it's all such a big piece. So that's it.
Great.
Wonderful.
That's a lot. Love it.
Yeah. Rich, if someone wanted to get a hold of you, for your coaching or anything like that, what's the best way to find you?
It's richpriddis.com. It's my name.
And it's Priddis.
Correct.
Great. Thank you so much for coming on today. This has been such an education. and witnessing that journey of transformation, really just being open to something completely new, and how much love you found.
Thank you.
And something that you mentioned early on was, that there's people who were in the church who didn't have, they didn't see a sparkle in your eye. So if you're only listening and you're not watching this on YouTube, then I am here to attest that Rich has a wonderful sparkle in his eye.
Thank you.
And also to call out, right, that this journey started for you at 49. And here you are at 65, like living this really vibrant, full,
joyful
life. This is a testament. Like it's never too late.
Never too late.
It's never too late.
Yeah, to make a change.
Well, thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you, Rich. Okay, bye, Brave Hearts. We'll see you next time. Hey, Brave Hearts. Looking for permission?
Work with us.
Andrea offers permission coaching.
And Janelle offers erotic wellness sessions.
Follow us on Instagram.
Meet us in real life at Permission to Be Human workshops in Denver.
Subscribe to our newsletter.
Do all this and more at our website, permissiontobehuman.live.